Did you know that Oklahoma was once panhandled? That vast strip of land reaching to the west was a lawless territory, with no owner, standing outside the reach of any U.S. government authority. And did you know that beneath its sweeping prairies lies one of the world's largest natural reserves of oil and gas, fueling the energy powerhouse of an entire nation? Not only that, but Oklahoma also hides a fossil sea beneath its plains, making it one of the richest places for dinosaur remains in the world. Oklahoma is more than just Tornado Alley. It's a land of frontier spirit, a place where history and raw natural power collide. Get ready, because today you'll uncover 35 amazing facts about Oklahoma that will change the way you view the unstoppable heart of America. 35. The Panhandle's five-state junction. Let's start with the Oklahoma Panhandle, and this one's a big surprise, Shimmering County. Nestled at the very tip of the Oklahoma Panhandle is a unique geographical feature that doesn't exist anywhere else in the U.S. It's the only county in the entire country that borders 4 different states: Kansas to the north, Colorado to the northwest, New Mexico to the west, and Texas to the south. And if you include Oklahoma itself, Shimmering County touches 5 distinct political regions. When I made the drive out there, the sense of isolation was undeniable. It's a vast expanse of high plains and desert landscapes, but when you look at the map, you realize you're standing at the crossroads of American borders. Most people are familiar with the Four Corners Monument, where 4 states meet at a single point. But Shimmering County isn't just a point. It's an entire area that serves as a bridge between the Great Plains and the Southwest. It's also the only part of Oklahoma that informally follows mountain time in places like Kenton, which just adds to the feeling that you've truly left the rest of Oklahoma behind. 34. The ecoregion diversity champion. If you picture Oklahoma as just endless wheat fields, you're missing a crucial detail. One of the most surprising facts I discovered while exploring the state is that Oklahoma boasts more diverse ecological regions per square mile than any other state in the U.S. Depending on the EPA classification you refer to, the standard is usually level 3, and in Oklahoma there are around 11 or 12 distinct ecosystems. From the Rocky Mountain foothills and pinyon juniper forests in the west to the cypress swamps, yes, with alligators, in the southeast, the state offers an extraordinary range of natural landscapes. In just one day, I drove from the arid shortgrass prairies, which felt like the Serengeti, to the Wichita Mountains that reminded me of the Appalachians. This dramatic shift occurs because Oklahoma lies at the intersection of various weather patterns and geological formations. It might not be the largest state, but Oklahoma condenses the biodiversity of an entire continent into a space that's relatively small on the world map. It's an incredible reminder of how much variety nature can pack into a single, compact region. 33. The man-made water. World. This fact might sound unbelievable until you dive into the engineering records. Oklahoma boasts approximately 55,646 miles of shoreline, more than the combined total of both the Atlantic and Gulf coasts. Now, before you start packing your surfboard, there's a twist. Almost all of this shoreline is inland. Oklahoma doesn't have many natural lakes, mostly just oxbows or ponds. Instead, the state is dotted with over 200 man-made lakes, created by damming rivers for flood control and hydroelectric power generation. When you follow the winding, jagged edges of lakes like Eufaula, Texoma, and Grand Lake of the Cherokees, the shoreline mileage adds up quickly. I recall boating on Lake Eufaula and realizing I could spend days, even weeks, exploring its winding arms without ever passing the same spot twice. It's an enormous hydrological project that dramatically reshaped the geography of the Southern Plains, turning Oklahoma into an unexpected water world. 32. The iodine monopoly. Here's a mineral fact that truly blew my mind. If you have iodine in your medicine cabinet or use it in industrial applications, there's a very good chance it came from Oklahoma. For many years, Oklahoma was the only producer of iodine in the United States, and it still dominates the industry today. But the iodine doesn't come from a traditional mine. It's sourced from deep underground brine wells. In the northwestern part of the state, particularly the Anadarko Basin, there are ancient inland seas buried thousands of feet below the surface. These brines are packed with iodine. Companies pump this salty water to the surface, extract the iodine, and then re-inject the water back into the ground. It's a vast, often overlooked industry, and most locals don't even realize it's happening. The Woodward Trench is the specific geological feature responsible for this iodine-rich brine. It's mind-boggling to stand on a dusty oil field and know that beneath your feet lies a critical chemical reserve. one that's vital for medical imaging and antiseptics used across the country. 31. The inland ocean. Access. Earlier, I mentioned a seaport, and I wasn't kidding. The Tulsa port of Catoosa is one of the furthest inland river ports in the United States, accessible to seagoing barges. Located near Tulsa, it serves as the head of navigation for the McClellan-Kerr Arkansas River Navigation System. This port connects Oklahoma directly to the Mississippi River and through it, the Gulf of Mexico. Standing there, I watched enormous barges carrying wheat, fertilizer, and heavy machinery. It's a surreal sight because you're 445 river miles away from the Mississippi, surrounded by rolling green hills. Yet you're staring at a piece of international maritime infrastructure, the engineering feat required. To make the Arkansas River navigable this far upstream is a true geographical achievement. A network of locks and dams raises the boats hundreds of feet in elevation, transforming the prairie into a commercial coastline. It's a remarkable triumph over gravity, turning this inland area into a bustling trade route. 30. The world's highest hill. This might sound like a local joke, but it's actually recognized geographically. Kavanaugh Hill, located near Poto, proudly claims the title of the world's highest hill. The summit sits at exactly 1,999 feet above sea level when compared to the surrounding terrain, and that's where the distinction lies. The reasoning is simple. Once a landform reaches 2,000 feet, it's classified as a mountain. So, at 1,999 feet, Kavanaugh holds the crown as the tallest of the hills. I drove up the winding road to the top, and the view overlooking the Poto River Valley is genuinely breathtaking. While whether the 2,000-foot threshold is strictly scientific may be up for debate among geologists, the locals fiercely protect that 1.99-foot gap with pride. It's part of the folded geology of the Winding Hills region, which forms long, scenic ridges. It's a perfect example of how geography and local identity blend together, creating a unique piece of pride for the community. 29. The Hourglass Crystal Plain. This is one of my absolute favorite hidden gems. The Great Salt Plains in Alfalfa County is the only place in the world where you can find hourglass selenite crystals. But these aren't your average crystals. They feature a unique brown hourglass shape inside, formed from sand and clay impurities that make them unlike anything else. The landscape here is striking, resembling a vast white desert with a salt crust left behind from an ancient Permian sea. I went out there armed with a shovel because during certain seasons, you're allowed to dig for these crystals. It's a muddy, salty adventure, but the reward of finding one of these rare crystals feels truly magical. These crystals form just beneath the surface where saline groundwater rises and evaporates. The combination of the specific geological conditions, the saturation of the brine, the soil matrix, and the local environment creates these hourglass-shaped crystals, and this phenomenon hasn't been replicated naturally anywhere else. It's a one-of-a-kind geological treasure that belongs exclusively to Oklahoma. 28. The East-West Mountain Range. When we think of mountain ranges in the U.S., like the Rockies or Appalachians, they typically run from north to south. But the Wichitas in southeastern Oklahoma are a striking exception. These mountains stretch east to west, creating a unique geographical feature in the region. This unusual orientation results in a distinct microclimate. The north-facing slopes tend to be cooler and more moist, supporting a different range of vegetation compared to the sun-baked, drier south-facing slopes. I hiked along some of the winding trails here, and the contrast was clear. On one side, you're walking through a lush hardwood forest, while on the other, it feels more like a dry pine woodland. From a geological perspective, the Wichitas are ancient remnants of a collision between the South American and North American tectonic plates. They didn't rise overnight. They were formed through intense folding, like a rug being pushed against a wall. This process created the parallel ridges that defy the typical north-south orientation of most mountain ranges. 27. The Toxic Ghost Town Geography. Not every geographical fact tells a happy story. Peacher, Oklahoma, situated in the far northeast corner of the state, is a modern geographical tragedy. Once the world's leading producer of lead and zinc, the tri-state mining district thrived here for decades. But today, Peacher is a ghost town. The very geography of the place has been deeply scarred. The mining activities left behind massive underground voids causing buildings to sink into the earth. The surface is covered in heaps of chat, dangerous mine tailings that remain toxic to this day. I drove near the town's outskirts. It's unsafe to enter, and the scene looks like something out of a post-apocalyptic film. The EPA has designated the area as the Tar Creek Superfund site, marking it as one of the most contaminated locations in the U.S. This is a sobering example of anthropogenic geography, how human activities can alter a landscape so drastically that it becomes uninhabitable. The chat piles are so vast they even create their own wind patterns, but these mounds are laced with heavy metals, posing lasting environmental dangers. 26. The ancient cross timbers. Stretching across the heart of Oklahoma is a dense band of vegetation known as the cross timbers. But this isn't just any forest, it's a significant geographical barrier that once divided the eastern woodlands from the western plains. Washington Irving, famously, described it as a forest of cast iron, referring to the thick, gnarled post oak and blackjack oak trees that dominate the area. Geographically, this region sits atop sandstone ridges that weren't ideal for farming, which is why much of the old-growth forest managed to survive. I've hiked through parts of it, and while the trees aren't towering, they're incredibly old. Some are more than 400 years old. The cross timbers marks a sharp physical division in Oklahoma's landscape. To the east, the soil is deep and moist, perfect for hardwoods. To the west, it transitions into the dry, red earth of the prairie. In many ways, it's the backbone of the state, a living testament to its natural history. 25. The failed rift of the Wichita Mountains. The Wichita Mountains in southwestern Oklahoma are some of the oldest peaks in North America, but their origins are far from peaceful. They are the remnants of a failed geological rift known as the Southern Oklahoma Olicogen. Around 500 million years ago, the North American continent tried to tear itself apart in this region. Magma surged upward, cooling into granite, but the rift never fully formed, and the splitting process halted. Over time, the area was lifted and shaped into the mountains we see today. Mount Scott, which I drove up to catch an incredible sunset, is essentially a granite plug from this ancient geological event. Unlike the smooth, folded ridges of other mountain ranges, the Wichita Mountains are jagged, with towering granite peaks and boulders that resemble massive marble piles. It's one of the few places in the heart of the continent where you can touch igneous rock that dates back to the Cambrian explosion, a direct link to the Earth's distant past. 24. The earthquake epicenter. For a brief period, Oklahoma became the most seismically active state in the continental U.S., even surpassing California. This alarming shift highlights the collision between human activity and the Earth's natural processes. Although Oklahoma has its own fault lines, the dramatic rise in earthquakes, thousands each year at its peak, was tied to the disposal of wastewater from oil and gas operations. By injecting this waste into deep wells, it inadvertently lubricated the ancient fault lines, including those from the failed rift mentioned earlier. I'll never forget sitting in a coffee shop in Oklahoma City when I felt the floor roll beneath me, something completely unheard of just 2 decades ago. It's one of those rare moments where you can witness real-time changes in the Earth's geology, directly influenced by industrial practices. While regulations have since been tightened, and the shaking has subsided, the experience has forever altered how we view the region's geological stability. 23. The ever-changing Red River border. Unlike most state lines, which are set in stone, Oklahoma's southern border with Texas is a dynamic and ever-shifting geographical boundary. The Red River defines this border, but for over a century, the two states engaged in an ongoing dispute over its precise location. Here's the interesting twist. The original border wasn't drawn along the center of the river, but rather at the vegetation line on the southern bank. This meant, technically, that the entire river belonged to Oklahoma. I remember standing on the Texas side, looking across the water and realizing that both geographically and legally, I was actually looking at Oklahoma. This confusion led to chaos in areas like oil drilling rights and bridge construction. Although a compact in 2000 officially fixed the boundary at the vegetation line, the river itself is constantly changing its course due to the shifting sandy soil. This means the actual geography of the border is in a constant state of flux, with land being eroded and redeposited between the two states every day. 22. The gateway to ancient Earth. If you travel down Interstate 35 through southern Oklahoma, you'll pass through a geological wonder known as the Arbuckle Mountains. These aren't just your average hills, they represent the oldest mountain range formation in the United States, nestled between the Appalachians and the Rockies. What makes this spot even more extraordinary is the highway cut along I-35. When engineers blasted through the mountain to create the road, they inadvertently revealed a perfect cross-section of the Earth's crust. This exposed feature is known as the Arbuckle anticline. I've stopped there myself to take in the sight of the exposed rock layers. They stand upright, as though stacked like books on a shelf. This vertical arrangement is the result of intense pressure during the mountain's formation, causing the layers to fold straight up. The limestone and dolomite visible here are roughly 1.4 billion years old. Geologists from around the globe visit this very spot because it's one of the rare places where you can physically walk through millions of years of geological history simply by strolling along the highway shoulder. 21. The unique gypsum, karst. Earlier we discussed caves, but Alabaster Cavern State Park in Woodward County offers something truly rare. It's home to one of the largest natural gypsum caves in the world that's open to the public. Most well-known caves like Mammoth Cave or Carlsbad are carved into limestone, a durable rock. But gypsum, the mineral that forms this cave, is much softer and water-soluble. That's what makes this cave system such a geographical marvel. Typically, water would dissolve gypsum over time, causing the cave to collapse into a sinkhole. Walking through Alabaster Cavern is unlike any other cave experience. The walls are made of white and pink alabaster, a form of gypsum, and they have a waxy feel to the touch. The geography of the cave is so specific that it supports a unique ecosystem, including Mexican free-tailed bats. This landscape is a fragile karst system, but finding it made of pure alabaster is like discovering a sandcastle that's withstood a high tide. It's a rare and delicate natural wonder. 20. The last great prairie. We often hear about the disappearing Amazon rainforest, but the North American tallgrass prairie is actually one of the most endangered ecosystems on the planet. Oklahoma is home to the largest remaining protected area of this vital habitat, the Tallgrass Prairie Preserve near Pawhuska. I went there expecting to just see grass, but the scale of it is truly overwhelming. We're talking about 40,000 acres of rolling hills where the grass can grow up to 10 feet tall, towering over you like giants. Geographically, this preserve lies in the Osage Hills, which are the southern extension of Kansas Flint Hills. The rocky soil here was unsuitable for plowing, which is why this area wasn't converted into farmland. Visiting this preserve is like stepping back in time. It's a glimpse into what much of the Midwest looked like 200 years ago. Seeing a bison herd roam freely is like witnessing a geographical ghost. This landscape has been wiped out by 96% everywhere else. 19. The shifting sands. When I tell people there's a desert in Oklahoma with sand dunes that rival the Sahara, they usually laugh. But Little Sahara State Park, near Waynoka, is a real geographical phenomenon. It spans over 1,600 acres of towering sand dunes, some reaching heights between 25 to 75 feet. The sand's origin traces back to the nearby Cimarron River, which has been depositing materials here for thousands of years, dating back to the Pleistocene epoch. The river's terrace deposits were carried by the prevailing winds, which blew the sand onto the surrounding escarpment, creating this vast, shifting landscape. What you find is a mini ecosystem that looks strikingly similar to the deserts of the Middle East. During festivals, I've even seen people riding camels, which is a surreal sight in the middle of the Great Plains. These dunes are constantly on the move, shifting and migrating with the wind. The landscape is relentlessly changing, as the sands bury fences and vegetation, a vivid reminder of the immense power of wind-driven geological forces. 18. The hidden crater. This might be the best-kept secret of all, and it's one you can't see with your eyes, but you're standing right on top of it. The small town of Ames, Oklahoma, is built directly over the Ames crater, or Ames Astroblame, the site of a massive meteor strike that occurred about 450 million years ago. The crater spans about 8 miles in diameter, but it's buried beneath approximately 9,000 feet of sediment. What makes it so geographically intriguing is the way the impact shattered the surrounding rock, creating a vast underground reservoir. The crater is now one of the most productive oil and gas fields in the state. I drove through Ames, and on the surface, it looks like just another small town. But tucked away is a quirky little museum dedicated to this extraordinary geological event. It's mind-blowing to think that an ancient catastrophe from outer space led to the formation of the unique porous rock structure that now fuels the local economy. Beneath the quiet town lies a hidden scar in the Earth's crust, shaping the present in ways most people would never imagine. 17. The swamps of Little Dixie. In the far southeastern corner of Oklahoma, particularly in McCurtain County, the landscape undergoes a drastic transformation, almost as if you've been transported to Louisiana. Welcome to the cypress swamps, a region that's part of the Gulf Coastal Plain. Here, the elevation drops, the humidity soars, and the soil becomes a thick, muddy mess. I've had the chance to kayak through the winding oxbow lakes along the Red River and Little River, navigating beneath towering bald cypress trees with their distinctive knobby knees jutting out of the water. This is the only region in Oklahoma where you'll find American alligators, and they are as native as they are common. It's a unique pocket of the Deep South, wedged into the heart of Oklahoma's plains. The biodiversity here is astounding, with lush ferns, delicate orchids, and palmettos thriving in abundance. Plants that couldn't survive even 50 miles to the north or west. It's a far cry from the dusty, arid Oklahoma that most people envision. This corner of the state is a hidden gem, defying all expectations of what Oklahoma is supposed to be. 16. The barium sulfate rose. Oklahoma is one of the few places on the planet, and by far the most prolific, where you can find rose rocks. These aren't fossils, but rather crystalline formations of the mineral barium sulfate, also known as barite. These stunning rose-shaped crystals appear in a strip of red sandstone that runs through the heart of the state, with the town of Noble claiming the title of the rose rock capital of the world. I've ventured out after rainstorms, searching the ditches for these beautiful, natural wonders. The formation process is quite specific. As groundwater seeps through the sand, barium precipitates out and crystallizes around sand grains, forming these intricate rosettes. For the rose rocks to form, the geology has to align perfectly, requiring the Garber Sandstone Formation, a particular groundwater chemistry, and the right erosion patterns to expose them. While barium crystals can be found in other places, the distinctive rose shape set within the red sandstone is a unique geographical hallmark of this particular strip of Oklahoma land. 15. The hidden water bank. The survival of Oklahoma's Panhandle is largely dependent on a hidden geographical asset deep beneath the surface, the Ogallala Aquifer. This expansive underground water reservoir spans several states, but it holds particular significance for Oklahoma. The Panhandle is semi-arid, and without the aquifer, the region's vast agricultural industry would struggle to survive. I visited a farm near Ginn where I watched irrigation systems in action, and the farmer explained that they're tapping into fossil water, water that has been trapped underground since the last ice age. Geologically, the aquifer is like a massive sponge made of sand, silt, clay, and gravel. But there's a growing concern. The water table is depleting. This creates an intriguing yet concerning geographical tension. While the economy above ground remains prosperous, the crucial underground water source that supports it is finite. This unique hydrogeological system doesn't rely on rainfall but on ancient water reserves stored deep beneath the plains. 14. The shimmering glass peaks west of Enid. As you drive toward Oklahoma's Panhandle, you'll come across mesas that seem to be crowned with shards of broken mirrors. These are the Glass Mountains, a stunning natural wonder that creates a dazzling optical illusion. The geography here is unlike anything else. The mesas are capped with a thick layer of selenite gypsum, and when the sun strikes the slopes, the crystals reflect the light, causing the mountains to glisten as though they were made of glass. I hiked to the top of one of the mesas, where the ground is scattered with these clear, sheet-like crystals. The contrast between the deep red Permian clay and the sparkling white crystals is striking. This is rugged terrain, rocky buttes and mesas left behind by a retreating escarpment. It's one of the most photogenic geological features in Oklahoma, yet it remains relatively unknown outside the region. 13. The limestone plateaus of the Ozarks. Earlier, we touched on the Wichita Mountains, but let's now turn our attention to the northeast corner of Oklahoma, where the Ozark Plateau stands as a distinct geographical feature. Unlike the Wichita Mountains, which were formed by folding, the Ozarks arose from the uplift and erosion of a massive limestone dome. This region's geography plays a key role in shaping the water. The bedrock here is a mix of fractured limestone and chert flint, which gives rise to crystal-clear, spring-fed streams. I spent some time on the Illinois River, and the water was so clear you could see the bottom even at depths of 10 feet. The riverbed is composed of smooth, white gravel, making for an almost pristine landscape. This unique geology gave rise to the Cookson Hills, a rugged, deeply dissected plateau that once served as a hideout for infamous outlaws like Pretty Boy Floyd. The landscape here is a labyrinth of steep V-shaped valleys and flat-topped ridges. While it feels more like the rugged terrain of Missouri or Arkansas, this plateau is the defining geography of Green Country, Oklahoma. 12. The Jurassic Footprints. At the far tip of Oklahoma's Panhandle, near Black Mesa, there lies a creek bed that holds a remarkable fossilized record of the Jurassic period. This is the Ciso Creek Dinosaur Trackway. Millions of years ago, what is now a high desert was once a swampy coastline teeming with life. I ventured along the creek bed, which, though on private land, can be accessed if you know where to look. Here you can see distinct three-toed footprints etched into the sandstone belonging to theropods, carnivorous dinosaurs, and ornithopods, the herbivores of the era. The geography is essential to preserving these ancient impressions. The Dakota Sandstone Formation has perfectly encapsulated these tracks. It's an extraordinary feeling to place your hand inside a footprint once made by a creature weighing several tons, connecting the present-day geography of the high mesas with the ancient landscape of a dinosaur-filled wetland. This site remains the only one in the state where such accessible fossilized tracks can be found. 11. The Volcanic Plateau. We've discussed mountains, but the highest point in Oklahoma, Black Mesa, is a geological outlier from a neighboring state. Standing at 4,973 feet in the far northwestern corner of the Panhandle, Black Mesa isn't a typical peak. It's a plateau crowned with black basaltic lava, an anomaly compared to the rest of the state's landscape. About 30 million years ago, a volcano in what is now Colorado erupted, sending a massive flow of lava eastward. As the lava cooled, it solidified into a thick layer of rock, 50 to 80 feet deep. Over the course of millions of years, the softer surrounding earth eroded, leaving this flat-top table high above the plains. Hiking to the top is a strenuous challenge, but once you reach it, the landscape is entirely flat. The vegetation changes dramatically, with cholla cacti and short grass, more reminiscent of New Mexico than Oklahoma. It's the only place in the state where you can stand on a piece of the Rocky Mountain geological system, an extraordinary link between Oklahoma and the wider geological history of the West. 10. The deepest scar on the continent. While Black Mesa may be the highest point in Oklahoma, the Anadarko Basin, in the western part of the state, holds one of the deepest holes ever drilled by humanity. This is the location of the Bertha Rogers gas well in Washington County. In 1974, drillers bored down a staggering 31,141 feet, nearly 6 miles, into the Earth's crust. For many years, it was the deepest hole in the world. The conditions deep within were extreme, with pressure reaching around 25,000 pounds per square inch and temperatures soaring to 475 degrees Fahrenheit. Eventually, the drill bit struck a layer of molten sulfur, which melted the equipment and brought the drilling to a halt. Geographically, the Anadarko Basin is a vast sediment-filled trough, rich in natural gas reserves. Standing in a wheat field in Washington County, it's almost incomprehensible to realize that just beneath the surface, explorers have dug deeper than the height of Mount Everest. 9. The natural asphalt pavement. In the southern part of Oklahoma, particularly in Murray and Carter counties, the geography quite literally oozes. This region is home to natural deposits of rock asphalt. Unlike the refined tar we use today, this is bitumen that is naturally soaked into limestone and sandstone outcrops over time. Historically, this was a significant geographical resource. In the early 20th century, miners would extract this sticky rock and use it to pave roads. In fact, some of the early streets in New York City and Chicago were paved with asphalt sourced right from Oklahoma. I've hiked through the Arbuckle Mountains and noticed dark, tar-like veins running through the white rock. On a hot day, the air carries a faint scent of oil. It's a rare instance where fossil fuels aren't buried deep underground, but are instead seeping to the surface, creating a unique and sticky geological environment that played a key role in building early infrastructure across the United States. 8. The visible earthquake scar. Earlier, I mentioned induced earthquakes, but Oklahoma also has a much older and very real tectonic threat, the Marietta Fault. Located near the Wichita Mountains, this is one of the few places in the United States east of the Rockies where you can see an active fault scarp with your own eyes. I took a trip to walk along it, and it's a chilling experience. The fault appears as a long, straight earthen wall or terrace running across the prairie, rising about 10 to 15 feet high in some areas. This wasn't created by human hands. It was made when the ground snapped. Geologists believe this fault ruptured around 1,200 years ago, triggering a massive earthquake of around magnitude 7. The geography here is a perfect example of a fault rupture. It's a sharp physical reminder that the southern plains aren't as geologically stable as we often think. It's a scar on the landscape that still hasn't fully healed. 7. The Salt River. The Salt Fork of the Arkansas River isn't just an imaginative name, it's a geographical truth. This river, flowing through northern Oklahoma, is naturally salty. The reason for this is the river's path through the Great Salt Plains Formation we discussed earlier. As the river flows, it dissolves the salt deposits beneath it, carrying the briny water downstream. During droughts, when freshwater levels are low, the salt concentration can skyrocket, sometimes reaching up to half the salinity of the ocean. I've seen the riverbanks covered in white crystals during hot, dry summers, creating a unique riparian landscape where only salt-tolerant plants like salt cedar and tamarisk can survive. It's a river that doesn't fit the typical freshwater mold, more akin to a brackish estuary, hundreds of miles from any coast. The Sulphur Springs. In the town of Sulphur, located next to the Chickasaw National Recreation Area, the air carries a distinct odor, one you might associate with rotten eggs, but in a surprisingly pleasant way. This area is renowned for its natural artesian mineral springs. The local geology is shaped by complex faulting, which pushes groundwater from deep underground aquifers to the surface, flowing freely without the need for pumps. The water is rich in sulfur, bromide, and various other minerals. I visited the Venom Well, a continuously flowing artesian spring that discharges thousands of gallons of mineral-rich water every day. The creek it feeds, Travertine Creek, is especially interesting. As the water flows, the dissolved calcium carbonate precipitates out, gradually building up travertine terraces and waterfalls, transforming the landscape before your eyes. It's a living, active geological process, where the mineral-rich waters are literally forming new rock formations, all while leaving behind a strong sulfur scent in the air. 5. The rust of the Red River. We've covered the border, but let's focus on its signature color. The Red River is famous for its distinct, deep rust-red tint, but this isn't just muddy water, it's a geological reminder of ancient history. The color comes from the Permian red beds found upstream in the Texas Panhandle and western Oklahoma. These soils are rich in iron oxide, or rust, which was deposited around 250 million years ago when the region was a dry, arid desert. The geography of the river basin functions like a conveyor belt, slowly eroding these ancient red clays and carrying them downstream. I filled a jar from the river, and after the sediment settles, it leaves a fine layer of red silt, incredibly smooth to the touch. This vivid color is a direct connection to the Triassic and Permian periods, turning the Red River into a flowing testament to the ancient processes of oxidation. 4. The Runestone Geography. Tucked away on Poteau Mountain near Heaven lies a fascinating geological feature, a large slab of savanna sandstone known as the Heaven Runestone. This stone, adorned with 8 distinct symbols, is believed by some to be Viking runes. While historians continue to debate their origins, some argue they were crafted in the 19th century. There's no denying the intriguing geography of the site. The stone sits in a sheltered ravine, high on a ridge, and the moment you hike down into the canyon, it becomes clear why this location was chosen by whoever carved those symbols. The area forms a natural amphitheater, well protected from the wind and the elements. This unique feature has allowed the carvings to endure for an impressive length of time, whether it's been 100 years or 1,000. The rugged terrain of Poteau Mountain itself only adds to the sense of mystery. Its difficult to traverse landscape acts as a natural fortress, with steep sandstone cliffs of the Ouachita uplift surrounding the area. Standing there, surrounded by the sheer, imposing walls of rock, you can truly feel the isolation and the sense of timelessness that has preserved this place, where the physical geography intertwines with local mythology, adding to the intrigue that continues to surround it. 3. The Dryline Generator. This is an invisible yet powerful force that shapes Oklahoma's weather. The state sits at a unique intersection of latitude and longitude, where the dry line forms most frequently. This boundary acts as the meeting point of 2 distinct air masses, the warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico and the dry, arid air from the high deserts of the Southwest. This invisible line isn't just a geographical feature, it's the very engine that drives the severe weather Oklahoma is famous for. I've driven across this line myself, and it's almost surreal. Within just a few miles, you can feel the temperature drop and the humidity vanish. It's like crossing into an entirely different world, all thanks to this subtle yet impactful boundary. The geography surrounding Oklahoma plays a critical role in this weather phenomenon. The Rocky Mountains to the west dry out the air, while the flat, expansive coastal plains to the south funnel moisture northward. Oklahoma lies right in the middle of this convergence zone, becoming the ultimate mixing bowl for warm, moist air and dry, cooler air. This geographical clash is why the state experiences such violent weather. It's not simply a matter of bad luck, it's a direct result of how mountains and oceans interact over this specific region of the Great Plains, creating a unique environment for extreme weather to thrive. 2. The Three Forks. Convergence near Muskogee. In the heart of Oklahoma, where 3 mighty rivers meet, lies a geographical phenomenon known as the Three Forks. It's a place where the Arkansas, the Verdigris, and the Grand River converge, creating a powerful hydrological intersection. Each river contributes its own unique characteristics, making this spot a fascinating blend of contrasting water types. The Arkansas River, with its reddish, salty water, carries the essence of the sandy plains it traverses. The Verdigris brings in the muddy, silt-laden waters from the plains of Kansas, giving it a murky, earthy feel. And the Grand River, hailing from the clear, chilled waters of the Ozark Mountains, injects a refreshing, cooler flow into the mix. I've seen aerial shots of this confluence, and it's mesmerizing. You can clearly see the distinct ribbons of color as the rivers converge, their waters only starting to mix as they flow downstream. This natural intersection became a critical hub for trade and transportation for centuries, helping to shape the region's economy and infrastructure. It's the reason why the port of Catoosa exists so close by. Its location is directly tied to this convergence. What makes the Three Forks truly remarkable is that it's one of the few places in the U.S. where 3 different drainage basins, each covering vast areas of the central United States, converge into one single channel. The sheer volume of water flowing through this spot is staggering, making it a central feature in the state's hydrological network. It's not just a place where rivers meet, it's a natural crossroads that has shaped both the land and the history of the region for generations. 1. The 98th Meridian Transition. We've reached the top of the list, and without a doubt, the most defining geographical feature of Oklahoma is its role as the transition zone of North America. The 98th meridian, a line that runs vertically across the continent, slices through the state, passing just west of El Reno. This invisible line marks the boundary between 2 very different worlds. To the east of the 98th meridian, the land is lush, humid, and hilly. It's a landscape reminiscent of the eastern U.S., or the South, with thick forests, abundant rainfall, and a sense of verdancy that feels more like the regions beyond. Culturally and physically, this part of Oklahoma bears the signature traits of the East, but to the west of this line, the landscape shifts dramatically. Rainfall plummets to less than 30 inches annually, and the geography starts to dry out. The once dense forests give way to sprawling grasslands, and the terrain flattens into the vast openness of the plains. Here, the land transforms into what we think of as the West, a place of wide, open spaces and dramatic skies. The 98th meridian doesn't just divide the land, it's a powerful geographical boundary that defines Oklahoma as the meeting point between 2 distinct ecological and cultural regions. It's a place where the East and West converge, each influencing the other in subtle and dramatic ways. This line is more than just a marker on a map. It's a geographical pivot that helps shape the identity of the state and its place in the broader narrative of North America. I've driven along I-40 through Oklahoma more times than I can count, and every time, it's impossible not to feel the shift in the landscape. As you cross that line, the air feels lighter, the sky seems to open up, and the entire atmosphere changes. The culture, too, transforms right before your eyes. From the farm-dominated East to the ranching spirit of the West, Oklahoma is the only state that captures this dramatic divide so distinctly. It's not just one geography, it's 2 separate continental zones, seamlessly stitched together. And it's this unique mix that fuels the state's weather patterns, its beautiful landscapes, and the everyday life of its people. Now that you've discovered these 35 fascinating facts about Oklahoma, we want to hear from you. Which one stood out the most to you? Which one took you by surprise? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's see how many of us picked the same one. And if you think we missed a key fact or want to add your own, we'd love to hear it. Your comments help us make each video even better, so don't be shy. Also, while you're here, check out the next video on screen for more amazing geography from across the country. But before you head off, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up. It really helps us keep making content just for you. See you in the next one.